Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video. Today we've got a top 32 breakdown for the Bandai Card Fest finals in Dallas that happened this past weekend. We had over 800 players to a top 32 cut day 2 into what we've got here today. So real quick though, before we get into the video, one, I'm still on the road right now, so I do apologize for the quality of the video being a little bit lower, but I want to make this video as soon as I could. I know you guys are interested in seeing what topped and seeing the deck list, so we made sure to get that for you guys as quick as possible. Also, if you guys are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe. We make a lot of content for this channel, and I want to make sure you guys don't miss it. Also, all deck lists are going to be on my website, Eggman Events, which is linked in the description, which you can find deck lists for this event and many others as well. But jumping on into it, as mentioned again, it was 800 plus players in day 1, 10 rounds of Swiss best of 1 into a top 32 cut, single elimination best of 3. And in that, we did have 7 copies of Silver's Rayleigh, 6 copies of Zoro, 5 copies of Bonney, 5 copies of Blue-Purple Luffy. We also had 4 copies of the Green and Purple Luffy, and then single copies of Katakuri, Enel, Yamato, Betty, as well as Smoker. So generally speaking, I think that the Silver, Zoro, Bonney, and the Blue-Purple Luffy, in my mind, are the 4 best leaders in this game right now, with Green-Purple Luffy lumped up for the top 5 as well. I did kind of make a meta tier list breakdown before going into this, and I had all 4 of those leaders in the top 4 as just the decks that you have to be very aware of in this format. So I think that's kind of what panned out for this event as well. And with Green Purple Luffy, we took up like 80% of the top cut just with these 5 leaders. But we also do have a lot of like interesting one-ups, right? With the Katakuri, the Enel, Yamato, Betty, and Smoker. And I wasn't really expecting, I'd say like Katakuri was definitely the least popular one in my mind to get into this, right? I thought, Enel has been getting some tops here and there. Yamato's also been getting some tops. I think that Betty, with the rise of Blue-Purple again, that could be a really strong leader to counter that again. And Smoker was doing pretty well in Japan in OP12, but didn't really see any success before this weekend in our OP12 as well. So to see those kind of interesting deck lists top would be really cool, and looking forward to going over those with you all as well. But again, if you guys want any of the deck lists from this event, you can find them on my website, Eggman Events. I've got all of the top 32 there. If there are any issues, let me know. I did have some small issues importing them to the website earlier. I think I caught and checked all of them, and all the ones we're going over in this video should be correct, but if there are any mistakes, please let me know. I'd love to fix those as soon as possible. But going into our first place list, this is Richard's version of their green Zoro, and I saw Richard get a second place finish in Toronto earlier this month as well, and it was really cool to see him not only do well at that event, but then see him in another finals just a couple weeks later here in Texas too. So big thing for his builds that I haven't been seeing as many other Zoro lists is the 2-drop Nami, and I'm immediately in love with this card for the deck too. So it's an on-play, look at top 5 cards your deck, reveal up to 1 green, East blue type card other than Nami, add to your hand, then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any other order, and then the trigger is just to simply play this card, right? Which is just honestly like another body on the board that's also a searcher, is fantastic. There are also just a lot of great East Blue cards. That includes the Kyoshira, right, has the East Blue typing. We also do have some 2Ks with it. We also have the Kuina, as well as the Hachan. All of these cards just fantastic, and kind of ending with the Tashigi, right? The fact that this is like the best card in this deck, and it's searchable off Nami, means that it's just another way for you to help find this, right? There could also be some times where like turn 1, you play Perona, turn 2, you play Nami, and you're able to get those kind of searches to help you find Tashigi. It's just very good for being able to do that as well. So I think it's a really great add. It's a really cool engine that you get to work with in this build in particular, and it's been really cool to see it, get second place again in Toronto, and then a huge finish here on this first place for Bandai Card Fest. So congratulations again to Richard. He'll be representing North America in the World Finals later this year, and a big congrats for him out there. So second place though, we also do have Aaron with their build of Silver's Rayleigh. I also did get the top 4 finish as well, so we also have Asa's build of the Silver's Rayleigh too. And you can see that there are some like minor differences between these builds also. Silver's is pretty understood to have a really like bulk 40 that you have to run, right? So many events you have to run. You want to play as many searchers as possible. Having 16 between Nami, Shaki, Buggy, and Boa makes sense. There has been some discussion of like, do you want to be more consistent with your 2Ks? With this having like the 2K Sanji, we have our 3-drop Sanji, then some rushes between the Zoro and the Kid Killer. But then you also see the other build here. We're a little bit more creative with using the Brook being able to play it and get 2 Dawn attached immediately is really good for having our effects from specifically the 4-drop Luffy and others, right? We do also have like our single copy of the 2-drop super rare Luffy from OP01. The fact that, again, this card just attaches Dawn means that you do have some ways to protect your 4-drop Luffy a little bit easier. And then we do have similar events, the addition of the Radical Beam, which I think is a good card. We've been seeing this pop up at 1 or 2 copies in some builds, especially since it's a searchable Straw Hat event card. And then also the Gum Gum King Kong Gatling, same kind of idea, but just having a way to kind of bump up your attacks to make one, extra little push to try to go for game is strong. And like the KO trigger is also pretty relevant in a lot of situations. So I think a 1-of for this card is justified as well. But so I've been saying this since this format started. I think so is Rayleigh. There is like some deck building decisions, right? You have to choose the text that you like, but it's such a player's deck, right? There's so many different sequencing for it. So to get into top 4 with Silver's Rayleigh, I think is a huge accomplishment, and congratulations to our 2 Silver's Rayleigh's players here as well. Next up, we've got Blue Purple Luffy. So this is Yost version of this, and was able to get a 3rd place finish with this blue and purple Luffy here. And there has been like a lot of adaptation, I feel like, with this deck, especially since, in our format, we had the restriction list and stuff. I've seen a lot of people decide like, do we want to put Roronoa, which I've been a huge fan of this card in the deck, even before OP12. I like playing it in OP11. We had seen some, finishes in North America where we have the Dofi package, and we are playing a little bit of it in this one, right? We are playing the 8-drop Doflamingo, which, if we get to do the wombo combo of 9-drop Sanji into 8-drop Dofi into 5-drop Roronoa, right? That's so much value. We get to like draw cards. We get to play cards from our deck. We're able to keep 2 Dawn open at the end of our turn 2. That's all just huge stuff that if you're able to do that, unless you're just like way behind, like Luffy will win the game because of how big of a value swing that is. So I think as part of that too, we try to have a couple more event cards. It means that we have to play only 2 copies of the Secret Rare Rush Luffy and only 2 copies of the Mihawk, instead of being more aggressive again with playing cards on the board than being defensive and getting the removal of sticky cards as well. So you are playing like Judgment of Hell. We all are also playing the White Snake, which I really do think this is an interesting ad for this deck. I do wish it was a Straw Hat card since Luffy is on it, but I understand why it's not. So counter up to one of your leaders or characters gains plus 1,000 power during this turn, and then draw 1. Then also the trigger effect, like unironically, can be super strong to help you like make sure that if you have like Sanji going into the next turn, you can rearrange it as well. So honestly, just a really flexible card that ends up working with this leader. Making yourself a 7k leader is pretty obnoxious when a lot of decks, like including Silver's Rayleigh, is trying to just do like a 6k pings on you. Being able to get above that with this White Snake and draw a card is super strong. So when you're already playing the Roronoa, I think this is like a really good build of Luffy. I want to play this myself. I think there's a lot of great tools with it. We do have to be, there are some compromises with it. We're not playing any copies of Red Rock. We've only got 1 copy of Pudding, right? So there are some like decisions for what you want to do with it too, but honestly, I think this is a really interesting build, and congratulations to Yost for their 3rd place finish with that one. Breaking into the top 8, we've got our Yamato player. So this is Long's version of the deck here. And Yamato has just been in like in a weird spot in this game right now, right? It is a deck that can go very aggressive, and so if your opponent isn't expecting that, you are able to get that value there. We did get a star deck in OP11 that helped us adding a couple cards, right? I think Doji's been like super strong. I think there's a lot of decks that want to play a 5-drop and keep it around, but also there's just like a lot of leaders that have 3 or more life cards generally, right? That means that there's a lot of 5-life leaders that are existing early, which means that they don't take the hit, or if they even do take the hit, you can then still play your Doji. But again, being able to get rid of Cavendishes, being able to get rid of Tashigis, that kind of stuff, I think is really strong for this card in particular. But it also has like some really good interactions with Draco Mihawk, right? It's a 2k, but being able to play off a slash character, cost 4 less from your hand rested, can include cards like the Mihawk, the Hawkins rather. It can also include the Kikunojo here, right? Also the Doji, right? There's so much like different cards you can tech with it as well. We do also have like our 1-drop Yamato Searcher, which has been fantastic. There's been the Izo. There's also been like the Momo. Like the entire deck has just been fire for this, right? We're playing all the new cards with it as well, and then a couple of new cards, older cards to go with them, with like the Toniyasu as well as the Onami, being able to get our like power boosts and our banishes, and honestly just a really, really strong deck when you're able to be very aggressive with it. Your opponent has to be very aware of what you're able to do. The fact that Hody Jones is still a great card in this format. The fact that we also have Dead Man's Game as like a backup copy of Hody Jones. What's also really good about this card is that it does use our Dawn. There are some like weird scenarios where like we don't have Dawn to actually use with our Yamato, and because of that, we don't actually get the activate main since we're just attaching everything that is already on the board already. So I think this is like a really solid list for everyone. I would also say that if so many people are trying to pinpoint the other kind of decks that I would represent in the top 5, if you have a good matchup into a lot of them, Yamato can be in a really good spot, and obviously did great getting a top 8 finish here. So this is the build here from Long, and congratulations for their top 8 with Yamato. Next up, we've got Katakuri. So this is Jimmy's version of the deck here, and again, Katakuri's like never been the worst deck in this game, right? It came out in OP03. Yellow's just had some like really good trigger cards, right? We also do just have 10-drop Big Mom, which consistently, like when Katakuri was more popular, people were like, this card is too good, it needs to be banned. If they play 2 back-to-back, I'm losing and I can't beat my opponent because they're healing, right? It's been a long time since then, and I do think, one, this card is still obnoxious, don't get me wrong, but Yellow's just been getting so many incremental support cards in the last year that there's just so many great cards for us, right? We saw a good amount of them in Yamato that you play, right? We see the Onami, the Basil Hawkins, the Kiko Nojo. We do also have like the Kuma, which we're adding for this deck. This is obviously a secret rare from OP12. Being able to get like an emergency heal is fantastic. We also have so many good triggers in this deck that we don't mind, like if we heal, chances that we get an additional effect from the card's inner life is super duper high, which is great. So we are also playing like the 8-drop kid is like kind of a backup version of our 10-drop Big Bomb, but we're just saying like I don't respect my opponents like being able to put cards on board. I'm just going to burn them down to 0 life as soon as possible, be able to get like this pressure, and if we do so, they just can't really do anything else with it. So it's interesting to see this deck go to top 8, right? Definitely not a card on my bingo list either, but to be able to do that, identify that we have some good strengths in this format, and Katakuri can like exploit some of these good matchups, I think is really key to see what this top 8 finish materialize. So this is the build from Jimmy, and congratulations for their top 8 with Katakuri. Next up, we've got Bonney. So this is the build here from Steel, who was able to get a good finish here. And Bonney, I think, has been one of the best decks in this format by default, I think. I think that's like an easy way to say that many people have been playing Bonney for a long time, and this is the format they are rewarded for playing it consistently over the last couple formats, right? It's never been a bad leader. It's never been like a wrong leader to bring to an event, but there have just been so many tools that came out of OP12 specifically that Bonney just gets to take advantage of most of them to just great effect for it, right? We have been seeing like obviously like another 2-drop blocker with protection with Koshiro, which is great for helping us be able to say, turn 3, we're going to play either like a Koshiro or a Toshigi, and then if we do so, we can play Cavendish on 5 and feel pretty safe that it's going to survive on the next turn, which is really big, right? You do also have like the 5-drop Bonney, right? Not only is it searchable, being able to get a blocker that helps us fix our hand. Bonney is like the least consistent deck, or one of the least consistent decks in this format when it comes to, we have so many big boss monsters in the end game, but we need to be able to find them at the right time and still have some defenses at the same time too. So that's been really helpful. Obviously, Mihawk's been a really strong card. We've got old favorites such as the Captain Kid. We were playing Zoro, which is definitely a choice in this. I think it is like one of the best finishers in this game. And if you're playing against Blue Purple Luffy, if they don't have their Red Rock, they have to instantly respect what this card gets to do. So it is kind of a good check for those situations. We're playing the Shanks, we're playing the 10-drop Dofi, and that's kind of the main top end for this deck, right? But in a deck that we're playing 17 cards without counter, 2 of them are the 0 cost, right? So we're playing 15 cards, and we can fix that with that. But we want to be able to see like the consistency of like the early game to be able to not take too much damage and have some interaction. And then we do also need to have kind of like the late game to kind of press the fact that we did get to 9, 10 Dawn with a healthy amount of life too. So lastly, for our searches, we decided to go 3 copies of Kid and Killer and 2 copies of Bonney. And honestly, I do like Kid and Killer a little bit more just because it does let us get that 1 Dawn open in situations that we don't need to. Obviously, like Bonney is like the cheaper one to do, but Kid Killer I think is just fantastic in a lot of ways. There's like decisions. I've also seen people play like the song package instead of like their searchers, and it really kind of depends on what you're looking for in these decks. But I'm a big fan of this card, and it's been I think it's been obviously useful in this finish here from Steel. So that's going to be it for this one. Congratulations to Steel for their finish with Bonney. And then breaking into a couple of our one-ofs, we've got Smoker. And actually, this is kind of like our top 16 green block, right? We've got the Bonney. We're going to Smoker. We're going to have Green Purple Luffy after this. But this is kind of a breakout performance for Smoker in this meta. So you did get, obviously, a lot of support in this meta for the deck, right? We can take advantage of the 1-drop Perona Searcher. We're not playing in this build since we're playing, I think, a little bit more of like the Navy package as well. But so we just have like a really teched out version, and this is like a really unique build for it as well. So this is the build here from Mrolas, who again was able to get a top 16 finish. But the big card first is like the Don Quixote Rocinante. Why this card is important? One, it is a Navy type, right? So we do get some searches off the Kyujaku, and then also we do get the plus 1k off for Smoker. So it's a 5k blocker, right? So kind of standard there. But being able to, if they have something like Hody Jones, or if they have something like Dead Man's Game to try to rest this to prevent a block, you can still restand this and block with it, which is huge for kind of those formats and those like kind of spots for it. So I think that's really important. We also do have like our Tashigi, our Chopper, right? Some standard 2Ks, right? I mean, a lot of the cards that a lot of decks, other decks use better than this one, you do get the advantage there. But we do also get advantage from the Bonney, right? We also do get the advantage from the fact that like Mihawk is really great. So being able to play this out, we get 4 Dawn back. If we also already have Smoker, we get like a 5th Dawn back, and then like 2 more from our leader. Like the fact that this leader can say like, oh, I'm going to play Mihawk for 2 Dawn is absurd, right? That's so much value, being able to play an 8-drop, 8k blocker, and then still have like 6 Dawn to play with. Huge advantage if you're playing it on curve, and like obviously better if you have 10 Dawn at the start of turn. So because of that, I think we do have access to more defensive cards. We have Dead Man's Game ourselves and 10-layer Igloo. We've got the Mole Pistol. We've got some removal from the Ben Beckman, right? If we are able to play Mihawk on 9, we're able to get 7 Dawn back active, and then we can play Beckman right after, right? Like, it's super good, except for, wait. You can't, 7 Question More now. You can't do that. Never mind. My bad. I'm so not used to seeing Mihawk and Smoker. Because Smoker's not played as much, but you can still play stuff like the Smoker, the X-Drake, or obviously the Bonney as well. All the really good cards for helping us there. Don't play Ben Beckman afterwards. Don't be a bad player like I was trying to be a second ago. But honestly, really cool to see this. I know a lot of people have been waiting for Smoker to show up in this meta, especially since it did better. I think in Japan, I think it does have a chance to do a very good matchup against the blue-purple, and happy to see it get a top 16 here. So congratulations for their finish. Next up, to finish our top 16 unique decks with green, we've got our green and purple Monkey-D.Luffy. And it's been really interesting to see how this deck has kind of tackled this meta, right? It has been a good deck by default since release, right? It has never been an unplayable deck, and I think it's been incredibly viable since its release in May of this year, right? And we do get like a good amount of weird support, right? You're like, man, this deck is like so like gated to like one-piece cards that have like Straw Hats in their name, right? We don't really have ways to play non-Straw Hat cards, but luckily Straw Hats are like one of the most common tags in this game. But we also can run a lot of these extra events, which is kind of how a lot of decks are leaning right now, right? We do have to be careful. We're playing 33 cards in this deck that don't have counter inherently, but one of them is like Gatling, and then we also do have like a lot of these additional events that are able to be defensive, right? We are playing like the Dead Man's Game. We're playing the Gum Gum Giant. We're playing the 2-sword style here, as well as the Thunder Bagua, right? So we're just playing like a bunch of events to try to interact with our opponent, right? And it's really easy to have Dawn open for these because we do have our Dawn -2 to keep 2 Dawn open at the end of the turn. Obviously, like Sanji Pudding lets you do that as well. It just means like this build is more so like saying I'm going to play bodies and leave Dawn open for defense if I need to do so. And it's kind of a shift from what I've been seeing a little bit, where you try to make your board as big as possible. And with this many events, you do have to be really aware of what your opponent can do. So you are also playing the 4-drop Zoro. I know this is still like a decision card, but I think it's so strong in this game, in this deck, that you have to kind of play it. We've got our searchers. We've got 3 copies of Marigo to kind of make room for the rest of these events too. And a really interesting build. There are like a lot of like minor different changes that I don't see all the time, and it's cool to see it get a top 16 finish as well. So this is GHC's build of the deck. Congratulations for their finish there. And the next up, we've got Enel. So this is the build here from Bark for Nami. I was hoping that there would be a Nami in the top 32, and this is close enough by name and by like how the deck works. So it is cool to see Enel get that here. So I know a lot of people have been trying the deck, and it's weird that there are 2 different builds from Enel that I've seen exist, right? There's either like the super duper, like starve out, like just be obnoxious, get my opponent to like 10 life and then just burn them down builds. And then we've got this kind of like more aggressive, like burn damage build. Like we don't care to like heal up forever. We just want to be able to be alive longer than you, essentially, right? So the reason that we do this, right, we have like a lot of good triggers, all right? We already have like the Basil Hawkins, Kigo Nojo we've talked about. Nami is still like a really good removal card in this deck as well. We do also have like the Kuma, this being able to be a card that we can just heal off of, and then our opponent has, kind of has a bit of a weird time removing this too. So like a great card to play just on 6. And again, it's always a 1K counter, so that's not terrible. We've got our Katakuri, and then we also have the 8-drop Dofi, which I'm a big fan of this card in this. Like I feel like this is a bit of a sleeper card, right? So if you have 2 or less cards, this character gains Rush, and then on opponent's turn on KO, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards, right? So the fact that it's just like a Rush card that lets you heal is good. I know that it also has like a lot of like similarities to like 7-drop Enel. So if you like that card more, you can play it too. It's kind of like the opposite though. Like either do you want to save the body or do you want to get the heal, right? That's the kind of decision between the 2 of these. But honestly, I think this card's great, and like the rush damage you get is good. Also, 8K is really good against specifically like Luffy. Like the fact that 8 to 6 means they have to either giant or like gear 2 is super solid. 8-drop Kid, I think, has been so strong in this format against a lot of decks. The burn damage has been really good, and also like it's going to be easy for you to get like the draw 1, trash 1 at the end of turn. And then 8-drop 9K is again very difficult for a lot of decks to answer. And then obviously 10-drop Enel, this card's fantastic. Rush, 12K, being able to heal, get you back into the game and make it tougher for your opponent to win. I think these are all just like great cards that help the deck as well. So we are also playing the Arc Maxim. I've seen this card pop up a little bit. Mostly, I think, for Silver's Rayleigh, but activate main once per turn. You may rest this card in one of your Enel cards, KO all of your opponent's characters at the cost of 2 or less. So being able to get rid of like those searchers, right? I think there are a lot of decks that play, I think, a little bit more 1-drops and 2-drops in this format right now. So that being able to say, okay, 1 cost, get rid of all of them is absurd for just having to tap your leader as well. So this is the build here. Congratulations for Bark, for Nami, for their finish there. And then lastly, we've got Betty, who has not really shown up at all in this format. It's crazy. It was arguably the best deck in OP11. It was so strong. Basically, off the back, that blue-purple Luffy was so present in a lot of other kind of incremental matchups. And now it's just been like missing for most of this format, only to show up in like the largest event of the year so far. So it's really cool to see that. There's not really any changes in like how Betty works in this format in general, except for the matchups you have to dodge are different, right? The fact that, Zoro gets a lot of like incremental removal based off its leader effect, right? Also the fact that Silver's Rayleigh kind of does sometimes the same thing, but a little bit more flexible with it, right? But the high roll from Betty is still there. Karasu off of Emporio is still a really good combo. And, heck, it's been a long year, right? These are people who are been playing this entire format, and they got invites early in the year off something else. If you're someone who's just like committed to only playing Betty, you can still get rewarded for it, which is really cool to see as well. So not much more to say. I think you guys kind of know how Betty works, and it's honestly been kind of nice to not see Betty in a couple of weeks because of OP12, but I think this is still like a huge accomplishment, and congratulations to Diz for their top 32 finish with the Belo Betty here. But that's going to be it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and also if anyone said hi to me during CardFest, I really do appreciate it. Everyone's been so kind, and it's really cool to see people in person, and just I love it. I really do appreciate it. It's why one of the big reasons I do this is because I know you guys get a lot of love for it as well. So I don't have anything else for you guys. Make sure to check out the website if you want to see more of them. Congratulations to all of our top 32 players, and I'll catch you all next time.